Number 6, where will we go if we have to evacuate the city? This ties into number 7, what routes will we take to evacuate the city? Things to consider are, do you have family that live outside the city? Do you have, you need basically rings. You need your home, so you have your home here in the middle, and you can go there, shelter in place if you need to for different things. Then you have a ring kind of outside that's like you can consider a hotel or something like pretty close in range to that. So say your house has a fire or flood or something, water line breaks, but you can still stay within a few blocks because it's a very localized emergency, like your house. Then you have another layer that is a little bit further out, a few hours out, and that'll give you kind of a little bit of a regional option. So you want something that's about at least 2 hours out, usually an hour and a half to 2 hours out, but usually maxing out about 2.5, 3 hours. And that lets you, riots in the city or a 9/11 kind of situation where you have a very localized event, but it's massive and there's a lot of panic. Then you want to have one that's a little bit bigger. You want to have an area that's outside the state. Say you have wildfires that are massive, or flooding that's massive, or a hurricane. You want to be able to go that one or two states away, depending on where you are in the country. If you go one state away in Vermont, that's like going to the next county over in Texas. So you want to be able to go really far away. Or another country. If you live in Europe, those the countries are pretty close, similar to states. Then you want to be able to know, do you have family there, or do you need to kind of plan out ahead of time? Like, now's a really good time to go through and do you have hotels that are there? Do you have hotel options that you can trust the area they're in? They're not they're in a low crime area. They have restaurants around. They have a Walmart or some kind of super Walmart or Sam's or something that's close. And then you've already vetted that, so okay, if this happens, we can go this way or this way or this way, and we already have that place we can go. Then, how do you get there? Next, you have number 7. What routes will we take to evacuate the city? And this is really important. On top of knowing where to go, is how to get there, because you cannot just you need to plan for worst case scenarios. If you're in the situation where you're evacuating, clearly some dominoes have already started to fall, and panic is most likely in place or about to be in place. And some good criteria: you want to be able to have primary road is a freeway or a highway. That's where you can go the fastest speed, most direct route, no stop signs, that kind of thing. You want to have 1 or 2 of those options. You want to try, if it's possible, to incorporate those options with little or no bridges, because if you're looking at an earthquake, or say you're looking at protests like in France right now, or the protests that happened a few years ago in different cities, they stood in front of roads and blocked them, and that's a whole debate to get into separately, but they did it, and they were not stopped at the time. So you need to, if you go through a bridge, that is a funnel of death, I guess you'd title it for the law enforcement guys, because you're going to get stuck on both sides. You're probably not going to be able to go around, back up and then go around, because you're going to be trapped. So you want as little or no bridges as possible. Earthquakes, the protesting, and you want to be able to, if it's possible, if you're in Louisiana, it's probably not, but you want to be able to get to the highest elevation route possible. So if there is flooding, you want to be able to go the route that will have the least amount of flooding in the roadways. So that will mean that roads are not blocked, vehicles are not stalled with the rescue trying to get them out, which inadvertently leads into being blocked, and usually can get out quicker. Then you want to make sure that you avoid high population areas. Say that you live, Dallas is a good example, you want to go south. You want to go to, somewhere in Waco. And you do not, underlined, want to, if you're in the situation where you are choosing to evacuate because one of your criteria have happened, you want to avoid downtown as much as possible, especially if the majority of your area, like LA, is all downtown. Then you want to be able to go around it. And yes, that will add a significant amount of time, as opposed to a 5-mile stretch through downtown. You're having to go a 20-mile loop around the city. Yeah, that's going to take a lot longer. But you can almost bet if it is protesting, they are going to be downtown. If it is flooding, you're going to have backed up traffic every which way you can imagine from people either going or coming. If it is terrorist related, you're going to have people fleeing, and they're not going to pay attention to what direction those roads are supposed to go. They're just going to get on a street and drive. So you're guaranteed that's going to cause some head-on collisions. There's just enough going on down there. If something's going on, police, fire, alphabet soup, they're going to have that place so flooded with people and not knowing what's going on at first that you just need to not be around that. And that goes into your evacuation route. So make sure you have multiple ways out, and you want to have at least 3 of those that meet all that criteria. So that way, if one is blocked or down or flooded or something, or there are protesters on it, you can go the other way and know your shortcuts in between, in your head without having to rely on your maps on your GPS. Number 8, how will we get information if internet, cable, and satellite go down? The easiest options for that are old school, get an over-the-air antenna for your television. They're like $20-30, and if you live in a city, we get like 60 channels inside Dallas, and ours is inside the house, and it was a $20 over-the-air antenna. And anything's hackable, but you can't. It's just going from the transmitter side of the station to your antenna, so there's not like stuff in the way. Then radio, just having an AM FM radio with a no weather radio on there, because that's how the government's going to get information out, is over the emergency alert system. And if you don't have a weather radio, at least have a radio that you can battery powered plug in or hand crank. Those Eton radios, I've done a video review on. I think those things are awesome. They've got a great flashlight. The hand crank is really solid. I still have never broken one. It's got AM, FM, and weather. Some have shortwave, I think the more expensive ones, but the small ones definitely have AM, FM, and NOAA. Then, and that would be how you get information if all the main things went down. And then know your radio stations too. If you listen to Pandora all the time, know that what AM stations are going to have news, because the good ones most likely are going to have a generator, just like television studios. And AM especially, it's going to go a long way. You can go hours from a city and still get AM stations. So this is number 9. Do you have short-term emergency power for your refrigerator, modem and Wi-Fi, main television and over-the-air antenna, and one light in each room? This could be your short-term emergency power for your refrigerator. That's mainly so your food doesn't spoil, because that's what goes bad in the first little bit of an emergency. And if it is a small event, say it is just a power outage because of a storm or something, the more stuff you have in your fridge and freezer, the longer it's going to stay, because that stuff is helping keep stuff cold. But the backup battery, we have a 1500 watt on a French door freezer pull out on the bottom, and it's the Energy Star one, and I believe we can get about 200 minutes out of that, so that's 120. So you're looking at probably 3 hours, a little over 3 hours on on the fridge, and that's usually enough. You know, if you go an hour or two and the power doesn't come back on, it wouldn't hurt just to pull out the generator, crank it up, and run it off the generator. That's easy. Then the modem and Wi-Fi, that lets you, still have your internet connection, and that lets you, because most likely there's like a battery bank or a generator at the main hubs for that kind of stuff, for the internet and everything. And that's probably still on. It's the connection to your house that's turned off. And if you can have some backup power, again, one of those APCs, the 1500 watt, which I'll go over in a second, you can usually get about 2 or 3 hours out of that, sometimes a lot longer. And that lets you still be able to know what's going on, make phone calls, if you can use Wi-Fi to make phone calls, like with Apple and stuff, or FaceTime. And then main television with over-the-air antenna, that way you can see what's going on, again, over-the-air antenna. And then one light in each room. What I recommend is the little Gold Zero lanterns. And I know I push Gold Zero a lot. It's not sponsored, I promise. But the reason is because they're durable. They last really long time. We've been really aggressive on those things, and they still lasted. And the hand crank lantern also has a USB on it, so you can get some power off of your phone, just so you can get a little charge on it. And the lantern lasts a really long time. It's dimmable. It's got a rescue light on it. It's just a really good lantern to have. And you just toss one in each room. It's hand crank. You can charge it off a USB, so you can charge it in your car. You can charge it off a battery pack that everyone should have. It's just easy. Then, do you have 3 days of food without power? If the refrigerator goes out, you've gone past your couple hours, do you have the ability to have food that's good food, not Snickers bars or anything, that you can heat up or cook, with camping stoves or MREs or however you're going to do it, but for 3 days? And then, do you have water? And again, like I said in the previous video, my personal rule is 3 gallons per person per day. That gives you a gallon for drinking water, a gallon and a half during the summer, or even 2 gallons during the summer. That gives you a gallon for food prep, cleaning, surprise stuff like trauma, medical, and then if you need to share some, that gives you a buffer, so you're not worried about losing your capfuls of water. You have hopefully a fairly good amount to go for a while. The next thing, and that's for 1 week, so you need 3 gallons per person for 1 week, if you're choosing to stay in the city, or if you have to shelter in place. That is another contingency. Something could happen, nuclear, some other event where you have to stay there, pandemic. Usually you have a little bit of time on the pandemic stuff, but some kind of attack where you're just stuck. You need to be able to, that gives you a couple of days to kind of get things in order to figure out what your plan is. Do you have one tank of fuel for your car? Or if you have a Tesla or an EV, one electric vehicle charge. And that could come from a generator, that could come from a Tesla Powerwall, but you need to make sure that whatever you do, that you have the ability to basically electric or gas, tank. You get one tank or battery charge of distance, which normally, is a couple 100 miles. And that'll let you at least get out, be able to sit in traffic for a little bit. It gives you good evacuation options. The gasoline is a little easier because it's usually 4 NATO jerry cans and you're set. And then, can we boost a car battery or air up tires that leave the house? And that's important too, because if your car battery's dead or you have flat tires, your car's no good to you, and that's a major asset you need in an emergency. Do we have a flashlight and knife per person? And again, this flashlight, for kids, you could do the cheap $1 flashlight from Walmart, but I think anyone above toddler age needs to know how to use a flashlight, not just, hey, I turn it on and can see, but when to use it, when not to use it. You should turn it off if it's a dangerous situation. You don't want to just shine your light around, showing the bad guys where you are. That's just not smart. You want something that's waterproof, that you can hit against a window. You want something that you can fall on top of. You want something that's good with vibration. So if you're having to hold that and fire your weapon, that that, you know, can handle that vibration that's going on. And then a knife per person. I know it's cheesy. I'm a huge fan of the Victorinox Swiss Army knife, the real Swiss Army knife. The blade stays sharp forever. It's got every basic tool you can need, and it's just a really good knife to have. Now, I do think it's important to have an open assist, you know, Benchmade or fill in the blank, whoever you want. That is crucial. You know, you need to have that in a good fixed blade knife as well. But I think at a minimum, everyone should have a knife, know knife safety, how to sharpen, you know, it's not a toy, that kind of stuff for kids. And then number 15, finally, on the questions, do we have a way to defend our home from a distance, for an example, home invasion or aggravated robbery? And I feel like I went over that pretty well in the initial video that went over everything, but do you have a way to secure your house? Do you have a way to see what's going on outside of your house without you getting near a window or door? Do you have a way to know audibly and visually, definitely audibly, if someone's walking up your pathway or driving up your driveway? And do you have some method, if guns are illegal or you choose not to have one, do you have some method, if someone finally gets through your door or in your window, how are you going to stop them? Because you need to go on the assumption that as good as law enforcement can be in their fastest response time possible, unless they are outside your front yard, it is going to take them at least a couple of minutes to get there. Even if, you know, no one's on the street running code, getting there as fast as they can, it's going to take time. So you need to have a way, just objectively of any kind of politics, you need to have a way to defend yourself. Because you need to plan on the person that's going to come through that window is going to be angry. They're going to be, just say they're on drugs or drunk, so they're not in their full right mind, because clearly they're breaking into your house. And they're bigger. So you need to be able to defend someone that's bigger, angrier, and more determined coming through there with, you know, with you not having any reaction time. Say you just wake up. You need to plan for that, you know, and make sure you're following, because I want to make sure, you know, legally, make sure you follow all of your local laws and regulations. But you've got to think through that, because that is really important, because if you don't, even if you have a gun or not, if you don't plan on how you're going to do in that situation, you most likely can die. And, you know, if you have kids in the house, it's just going to go downhill from there. So you need to make sure, if you are the adult in the household, that it is your responsibility to make sure that household and that property is safe and secure. And even if you, you know, if you're watching this and you're much older, that's fine. Everyone can do something, you know, until you stop breathing, you can do something. So just plan for that, because it's really important that you know how to defend yourself and your family. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to do another video to wrap this little initial how to prepare video series up. With the next video, it's going to be where to start, and then it'll be going over just kind of recapping some things and going over some quick recommendations. Thank you for watching.